my God. How do you see people like this, right? You see people like this and be like, yeah, let me go mess with them. YouTube, what's good, man? I'm back again with another video. Today we got the American who sailed to a forbidden island by Zavi. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm not gonna lie, but I mess with his content. Let's get straight to it, man.
You see, John had a problem. He was by a group of people called the Sentinelese, and nobody did anything about it. You see, the Sentinelese are a tribe of people that live on an island that has no contact with the outside world. But see, John's a missionary and thought, okay, if they don't have contact with the outside world, then they don't know about Jesus in them. So John decides to fly to India since it's close to the Sentinelese people's island. Now, this part's important. The Sentinelese people live on an island called North Sentinel Island. This is part of a larger island chain called the Andaman Islands. But see, the people in the Andaman Islands have contact with the outside world. The people in the Sentinel Islands don't have contact with anybody, not even the people in the Andaman Islands. They are literally all by themselves. As soon as John touches down in India, they say, okay, John, what you here for? John says, I'm just passing through. I'm trying to go to, listen closely, the Andaman Islands. The Indian government says, okay, no problem. But don't go to the Sentinel Islands. That's illegal. You see, the Indian government banned people from going to the Sentinel Island. And you'll find out why in a second. John said, illegal? That's too bad for y'all, because I'm going anyway. John already knew it was illegal. He said, I'm still going.
So you knew it was illegal and you still went there? Oh, yeah, no.
Flies over to the Andaman Island. The people in the Andaman Island said, damn, bro, we don't get too many visitors. What you here for? John said, sightseeing. Can y'all show me where the Sentinel Island's at? They said, we could show you, but we can't take you. It's illegal. He said, of course, of course. They said, there go to Sentinel Island right there. It's a...
How? Oh my God. How do you see people like this, right? You see people like this and be like, yeah, let me go mess with them. No, seriously though. How do you see people like this with bows and arrows and your first thought is, okay, I'm gonna go mess with them? Do they look like they want to be messed with? Oh my
Across the water from us. John said, I bet, I'm finna need a boat. They said, what? He said, I said, LeBron, the goat. John goes over to look for a boat. John finds two fishermen. He said, look, y'all, I need y'all to take me to Sentinel Island. They said, what? You know that's illegal. You gonna pay my bail? John said, I got $400 US. I don't know how much bail costs, but they said, say no more. You have me at US dollars. Hop on the boat. So John and the fishermen approach the Sentinel Island. The Sentinelese people see John and the fishermen pulling up. They start bringing out their bows and arrows, start moving aggressively. They're like, John said, you think they're trying to tell me to pull up? The fisherman said, nah, I think they're trying to tell you to stay here. John said, what y'all know? John hops on a canoe. He gets a little bit closer. Now, at this point, the Sentinelese people, they saying, John said, okay, raise the roof. All right, look, check it out, y'all. I got a Bible here. I just want to tell y'all about Jesus. That's when the Sentinelese really get to knucking and bucking. They pull out the bows and arrows. They say, ooh, if you come on this island, ooh. John said, oh, them folk tripping.
So they really gave this dude hella warnings, bro. They literally told him, hey, if you come over here, we gonna murk you. And he ignored all the red flags. The red flags was looking orange to him. Oh my goodness, some people are just dumb.
He leaves. The fisherman said, that's what we was trying to tell you, them folk like that. John says, so is my Lord and Savior. We're spinning the block and coming back another day. John was not finished. He comes back another day. The fishermen tell him, John, we appreciate the cash, no refunds, but you can't go out there. John said, watch me. John takes the canoe again. He approaches the Sentinelese people. The Sentinelese people look at each other. They say, he's stupid. Stay over there. John said, okay, I'm just going to come a little bit closer. He brings out his Bible and starts to sing. He said, how great is...
Oh, you finna find out how great he is for real. We finna send you to go meet him. Bro, listen, and I never knock religious people. I grew up in a very religious household. But some of the things I see religious people do is just like, why? Like, just why? Why would you think this is a good idea? And some people will use the excuse of God told me to. God did not tell you to go and mess with these people, bro. He did not. I'm sorry. I don't know what conversation you had with him, but I promise you God didn't say go to these people. He did not say that, bro.
Boom, they shoot an arrow at bro. But the arrow hits John's Bible and he swims away. And here's where things start to get wicked. You see, they didn't accidentally hit John's Bible. That was their target. They didn't want to hurt him. They wanted him to go away. You see, there's a reason why the Indian government made it illegal for people to have contact with the Sentinelese. It's because their immune systems are not built to handle the diseases that humans in the world carry today.
Okay.
And the Sentinelese people know that because this British dude Maurice in the 1800s pulled up to the Sentinel Islands, took 4 people. He gave them smallpox. 2 of them, he said, send the other 2 back to the island. The other 2 were coughing, sick. He said, send them back. Maurice then visits a tribe close by the Sentinelese, wipes out the entire population. Maurice said, damn, he wrote in his diary, yeah, it seems that we get people sick, but we the British since the 1800s, we finna pull up anyway. So after witnessing all this, you can probably understand why the Sentinelese don't want people approaching the island. Now, the crazy part is, despite witnessing all this, the Sentinelese people seem pretty chill. Indian anthropologists visited them in the 90s. Look at bro shaking hands. He said, what's good with y'all? And we don't want y'all visiting, but like, we cool. The Indian people start giving them coconuts. The Sentinelese people like, appreciate y'all. But one of the Sentinelese people brings out some real sharp dough and starts putting it around his heart, saying, One of the Indian anthropologists like, oh, I think we gotta go, y'all. The Sentinelese like, yeah, y'all gotta go, but we appreciate y'all, you know. But unlike those Indian anthropologists, John didn't take the hint.
He didn't.
And decides to go a 3rd time. And
my goodness. Oh my goodness. You can't make this up, bro. At this point, you can't feel bad for people like this because you definitely didn't want to live. That's what I'm assuming. You don't want to live.
That was that. The next time they found John, he was on the beach of the island. The Indian government pulls up to the Andaman Islands. They said, what happened? They said, John went to Sentinel Island. India said, oh. The United States pulls up. They said, what happened to our citizen? You know we don't play. They said, he went to Sentinel Island. United States said, oh, that's that island where you're not supposed to, you know. India said, yeah. We went over to the island too to get his remains for y'all. The Sentinelese people was not having it, but we did manage to get his diary. United States government looked at his diary and said, I know what I'm doing is illegal. If they catch me slipping, don't be mad at the Sentinelese. The United States said, no, we're not mad. The United States and the Indian government figured, well, he was warned a bunch of times. What can you do? In fact, his parents, John's parents, weren't even upset at the Sentinelese or John.
Yeah.
They were.
Why would we be mad at them? They didn't do nothing. We told you, we gave you multiple opportunities to turn around. Your ass kept coming back.
Upset at the evangelical church, who they believe radicalized him. In fact, even after he passed, some members of the evangelical church were praising him, and he became a martyr in some people's eyes, which to me is actually the wildest part of the story. Can you imagine if your son almost wiped out a group of people, and the church that made him believe all that was okay said, whoo, amen. In fact, to show how in deep John was, he even went to missionary training. Yeah, there's something called missionary training, where a couple folks from the church pretend to be indigenous people. They start speaking a different language, and you pull up trying to convert them. And to show even further how in deep John was, in his diary, he wrote, the Sentinelese Island was Satan's last stronghold. Now, that doesn't mean John saw the Sentinelese as bad people. It seems he saw them as people he needed to save, which arguably to me is even worse, because John was willing to risk an entire population's lives, but as long as they saved, like, it's all good. And
saved from what? Like, what exactly are you saving them from?
On top of that, in John's words in his diary, he was fully prepared to spend his entire life on the island. And that had me thinking, what if they say no? Like, what if the Sentinelese people accepted John on the island, heard him out, and said, nah, we don't want to convert? I was watching this missionary that spent 30 years trying to convert a group of indigenous people. At year 30, they're like, nah, we don't want to do that. He said, hey, yo. He said this completely broke him. They even interviewed the indigenous people. They said, yeah, he was talking about this and that God. We said, what your God look like? He said, some believe he's brown, some believe he's white. We said, you don't know what he looked like? Yeah. He said, nah. We said, where he live at? He said, the sky. We said, nah, we need somebody on land. We appreciate you, but like, nah. Again, that missionary was with those indigenous people for 30 years. 30 years. The missionary said as soon as the indigenous people said, like, we good, he realized yo, what am I doing? He spent 30 years with a group of people. They smiling, breaking bread with him. Whole time he had ulterior motives. He realized, he said, I'm tripping. And on top of that, they said no to his ulterior motives. Bro went straight home. He left the church. Now, at the end of the day, John got for what he believed in. But to me, he was no different than that dude from the 1800s that went to the Sentinelese Island. Because even though both men knew what might happen to the Sentinelese people if they went to the island, they went anyway. Because in their minds, their beliefs were worth risking the Sentinelese people's lives. But as we saw from what happened to John, the Sentinelese people disagreed.
I don't know why you would ever do something like that. That's so stupid. And that's what I'll be saying, bro. Like, and I don't knock people's religion at all. I grew up Christian. But some of the things Christians be doing, bro, I'll be like, okay, bro. Like, obviously, y'all make this look like a cult. Like, you feel me? But let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. Go ahead, like the video, subscribe. Turn on y'all notifications so y'all know when your boy posts, man. And Merry Christmas to all of y'all. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye.